I stepped out of my office in the artistic district, the scent of burnt coffee lingering in the air like a ghost. It was Tuesday, the day when the smell always seemed to follow me home. My heels clicked against the concrete as I walked towards my car, a metallic gray parked on the street corner. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows that stretched across the once vibrant murals. My boss, Robert, had just informed me of an unexpected merger between our companies. He'd presented it as a chance for growth and innovation, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was wrong. There was a sharpness in his voice when he spoke about this new opportunity, a tone I hadn't heard before. As I opened my car door, I noticed a faint smudge on my rearview mirror. It had been there for days, a tiny imperfection in an otherwise pristine view of the city. It annoyed me, but I couldn't bring myself to clean it just yet. The smudge was like Robert's hidden agenda there and unacknowledged. Robert and I had worked together for years. He was charming and well-respected in this artistic district, a businessman with connections that helped artists like me find patrons and clients. But recently, he'd been distant and distracted. His smiles seemed less genuine, his laughter forced, and the way he dodged direct questions. There was something unsettling about that. I started my car and pulled out of the parking spot, merging into traffic. The hum of the engine, mixed with the honking cars around me, drowned out the thoughts in my head. But they persisted, echoing like whispers from a nightmare I couldn't quite remember. As I drove home, I found myself replaying every conversation we'd had over the past few months. Robert's evasive answers, the way he brushed off my concerns with a casual joke or a light touch on my arm. He always knew just what to say to ease my worries. But now, his words lingered in my mind like an open wound. I parked my car outside my apartment building, the smudge on my mirror staring back at me as I caught my reflection in the glass. A flicker of fear sparked within me, and for a moment, I considered turning around and going back to work. But what was there left to say? The smell of burnt coffee seemed to follow me inside, filling the air with an acrid tang. My phone buzzed on the kitchen counter as I made myself a cup of tea. Robert's name flashed across the screen. I hesitated for only a moment before answering, my heart pounding in anticipation of what he might say next. As I lifted the phone to my ear, the tension between us settled like a thick fog over the city. Robert's voice was smooth as silk, but his words cut deep. "Hey," he said, "I just wanted to make sure you thought about what we discussed today. This merger could be big for both of us." I took a sip of my tea, feeling the warmth spread through my chest. My mind raced, searching for the right response. I didn't want to show him my fear, but neither did I want to pretend this wasn't eating away at me. "Yeah," I replied slowly, "I'm just trying to process everything." Robert chuckled softly on the other end of the line. "Processing is good. Just don't let your doubts cloud your judgment, okay?" The words hung in the air between us like a challenge. I clenched my fist around the phone, feeling my nails dig into my palm. "I won't," I said, more confidently than I felt. "Good." Robert's tone turned businesslike for a moment before softening again. "So, how about dinner this Friday? We can discuss everything in person." I hesitated, unsure if meeting him after everything that had happened would be a good idea. But the thought of not knowing what he was planning, or why he'd suddenly become so distant, made my gut twist with unease. "Sure," I agreed finally. "Dinner sounds nice." As we hung up, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was about to break. My mind kept going back to the smudge on my rearview mirror and Robert's tone when he mentioned the merger. There were too many unanswered questions, too many fractures forming beneath the surface. Friday arrived with a sense of dread heavy in the air. I told myself it would be fine, that dinner would clear everything up. But as I entered the restaurant, the scent of burnt coffee wafting from Robert's direction like an omen, my doubts deepened. He smiled at me, his eyes crinkling at the corners. For a moment, he seemed like the old Robert, charming and genuine. But then I noticed how he avoided looking directly at me, how his words felt rehearsed, even as his hands brushed against mine during conversation. As we ate, our small talk turned into larger topics of conversation. The merger, my work, Robert's latest ventures, everything seemed to revolve around this new development in his life. But beneath the surface of these discussions, I sensed something else, a distance that felt both physical and emotional. Our connection, once so vital and warm, was now strained by an invisible force. By the time dessert arrived, the tension between us had become almost unbearable. Robert leaned back in his chair, a forced smile on his face. "So," he said finally, "I think this merger is going to be great for both of us." His words hung in the air like the smudge on my mirror, there, and unacknowledged. I swallowed past the lump in my throat, feeling the fractures between us deepen into a chasm that threatened to swallow everything whole. "I hope so," I replied quietly, unable to say more as my heart cracked open with every word we exchanged. The burnt coffee scent clung to me like an omen, a reminder of the doubt and fear gnawing at my soul, and the fragile state of our once unbreakable bond. The evening continued in an uncomfortable silence, each bite of dessert feeling heavier than the last. Robert's smile seemed to falter momentarily as he caught my gaze. I looked away, unable to hold his eyes any longer. After we finished our meal, Robert offered to walk me out of the restaurant. As we exited, I noticed a group of people waiting by the entrance, his associates, I assumed. They all greeted him with warm smiles and handshakes as he introduced them to me briefly. Their words felt forced, like they were trying too hard to include me in their circle. As soon as Robert excused himself to talk to someone across the room, one of his associates cornered me by the car. He wore a sleek black suit that seemed out of place among the artists and intellectuals in this district. "Hey there," he said with an overly friendly grin. "I'm Mark, Robert's business partner. It was great meeting you." "Nice to meet you," I replied hesitantly, unsure how to react to his sudden approach. Mark seemed too eager, too smooth, like a polished version of Robert that made my skin crawl. "So this merger your boss mentioned," he said, leaning closer than I'd prefer. "It's going to be huge for everyone involved." I nodded slowly, still feeling uneasy about the whole situation. But before I could ask him any questions, Mark leaned in even closer and whispered, "Honestly, be careful around Robert right now. He's a bit off his game." His words sent shivers down my spine, but I tried to brush it off as an overstatement. Still, the doubt had already taken root inside me. It grew stronger with each passing moment, twisting the uncertainty into something more sinister. As Mark excused himself to join Robert by the group of associates, a cold realization settled in. This merger was about more than just business. It was about power and control. When Robert came back to my side, I pretended not to notice the shift in his demeanor. We exchanged polite goodbyes with his associates before getting into my car. The ride home felt even longer than before. The tension between us had reached a breaking point, our silence now filled with unspoken truths and hidden agendas. Once we arrived at my apartment building, I didn't invite him inside like I usually would. Instead, I stopped the car on the street corner and turned to face Robert. "I think it's best if we don't see each other for a while," I said firmly, trying to keep my voice steady despite the fear and uncertainty brewing inside me. Robert looked taken aback by my sudden declaration. He tried to speak, but no words came out at first. When he finally did, his voice was strained and uncomfortable, not like himself at all. "Okay," he muttered after a moment's pause. "I understand." But I could see the hurt in his eyes, the pain that my decision had caused him. It gnawed at me, knowing that I might have hurt someone I cared about deeply. But for my own peace of mind and safety, I couldn't help but feel it was necessary. As he stepped out of my car and walked away, the silence between us felt like a chasm swallowing everything we once had. The burnt coffee scent still lingered in my memory, an omen of all that was to come and all that would be lost. I watched him disappear into the night before driving home, my heart shattering further with every passing moment. The fractures we'd been trying to hide or ignore had finally broken us apart completely. And as I pulled into my parking spot, staring at the smudge on my rearview mirror, I realized that it was time for me to face the painful truth and fight for my own happiness in this shattered world. I stepped out of my car, the smudge on my rearview mirror glaring at me like a silent accusation. My heart ached as I looked towards Robert's retreating figure, but I knew our relationship couldn't survive the dark truths that had come to light. Days turned into weeks, and the tension between us only grew stronger with each passing moment. The scent of burnt coffee still lingered in my memory, an unwelcome reminder of what we'd lost. But as time passed, something began to shift within me, a small spark of hope amidst the darkness. It was a fragile thing, born from the realization that perhaps there was more to our story than I had initially thought. Perhaps, buried beneath the lies and half-truths, lay remnants of what we once were. With this newfound hope came the determination to learn the truth about Robert's motives and his recent transformation. The smudge on my rearview mirror no longer seemed like a simple imperfection, but as a symbol of everything that had gone wrong between us. I started by researching the company he was merging with, delving deep into financial reports and legal documents. What I found was both disturbing and enlightening. Robert had been involved in some shady dealings, possibly even embezzling funds from his own company. This discovery filled me with a mix of emotions, betrayal, anger, but also a sense of relief. At least now, I knew why he'd become distant and evasive. But the question remained, was there any hope for us to reconcile? I decided to confront Robert about my findings during his next attempt at contact. It took several days before he finally called me, his voice cautious yet laced with a longing that tugged at my heartstrings. "Hey," he said hesitantly, "I know we haven't talked in a while, but I miss you." I swallowed past the lump in my throat, torn between my desire to believe in him again and my fear of being hurt once more. Still, I couldn't help but wonder if maybe, just maybe, there was still something worth fighting for. "Let's talk," I replied quietly, choosing to take a chance on us one last time. We agreed to meet at a mall near the waterfront, away from the memories that haunted us both. The day was cloudy and gray, mirroring the uncertain state of our hearts as we sat across from each other, the tension between us palpable yet tinged with a hint of hope. "Robert," I began, taking a deep breath before diving into my discovery. I found some things about your company's merger, things that make me believe you might have been involved in something bad." For a moment, he looked taken aback by my accusation, but then his expression softened, and he reached out to take my hands within his own. "I know I've made mistakes," he admitted, his voice cracking with emotion. "But I never meant for things to go this far. There were forces beyond our control at play, forces that threatened not just me, but everyone around me." I studied him intently, searching for any sign of dishonesty in his eyes. But what I saw was only vulnerability and genuine remorse. "I'm sorry," he continued, tears welling up in his eyes. "I never meant to hurt you or betray your trust. If there's anything we can do to fix this, to find a way back to each other, please tell me how." The weight of my decision felt crushing as I looked into Robert's pleading eyes. A part of me still feared that he could be lying, that the truth behind his actions would reveal itself in all its painful glory. Yet another part of me yearned for redemption and forgiveness, for a chance to rebuild what had been lost between us. And so, with a heavy heart but tempered by hope, I made my choice. "Let's try," I whispered softly, allowing Robert to pull me into his embrace as we both wiped away our tears. "We'll face this together, whatever it takes." As the rain began to fall outside, drenching our surroundings in an almost cleansing grayness, a fragile reconciliation between us took root. It would be a long and difficult journey ahead, filled with more challenges and heartache. But for now, we held on to each other, grateful for the second chance that had been granted to us, and hopeful that together we could face whatever lay in store and find our way back to happiness. As Robert and I clung to each other amidst the rain-soaked streets, a newfound sense of determination washed over us both. We knew that our road to redemption would not be an easy one. It would require facing the painful truths we had avoided and navigating the treacherous waters of deception. The first step towards healing was confronting Robert's past actions head-on. Together, we began investigating his company's merger in greater depth, seeking out any information that could potentially shed light on his involvement in the shady dealings I had uncovered. We scoured through documents, interviewed sources, and consulted with experts to ensure our understanding of the situation. It wasn't long before we discovered a web of intricate lies and deceit that went far beyond Robert's initial misdeeds. It appeared that the merger was part of a larger scheme orchestrated by his former business partner, Mark, who had been seeking greater power and control within their industry. Armed with this new knowledge, we felt more prepared to face the consequences of Robert's actions and work towards restoring our relationship. We decided it was time to expose Mark's betrayal and bring him to justice, not only for our sakes, but also for any other individuals who may have been affected by his malicious intentions. Robert and I began gathering evidence against Mark, documenting every detail we could find that connected him to the scheme. This task proved more challenging than expected, as Mark had taken great care in hiding his tracks. Nevertheless, with Robert's newfound determination and my own investigative skills, we remained steadfast in our pursuit of the truth. Throughout this process, our bond grew stronger as we worked together, relying on each other for support and encouragement. The emotional turmoil that had once threatened to tear us apart began to heal, replaced by a sense of purpose and unity. Together, we faced the darkness that had plagued our lives, determined to bring light into the shadows. One day, while going through some of Robert's old emails, we stumbled upon a crucial piece of evidence, an incriminating message from Mark himself, detailing his involvement in the scheme and hinting at the extent of his deceitful plans. This discovery served as the catalyst for our decision to go public with the truth. We approached the authorities together, providing them with all the information we had gathered. The officials were initially skeptical but quickly realized the weight of our evidence. As Mark's web of lies unraveled, he was ultimately brought to justice, a result that not only vindicated Robert but also provided closure for both of us. With this chapter in our lives now closed, we began focusing on rebuilding what had been lost between us. We sought therapy together, working through the lingering effects of his past actions and reinforcing the foundation of our relationship with honesty and trust. The scent of burnt coffee still lingered in my memory from time to time, but it no longer filled me with dread or uncertainty. Instead, I saw it as a reminder of how far we had come, a symbol of hope that emerged from the ashes of what was once lost. Robert and I continued our journey together, side by side, hand in hand. We knew our road ahead would still be filled with challenges, but now we faced them united as one, unbreakable and resilient. Together, we learned to embrace imperfection and accept the messy complexities of life, for it was only through accepting our flaws that we could truly heal and move forward. As we stood in front of the smudge-covered rear-view mirror of gazing at our reflections with renewed hope, a single tear rolled down each of our cheeks. It was a bittersweet moment, acknowledging the pain and suffering we had both endured, but also recognizing that it had ultimately led us to this fragile yet powerful reconciliation. In the end, Robert and I emerged from the darkness stronger than ever before, our bond tempered by adversity and forged anew in the crucible of truth. And as we drove forward into an uncertain future together, we knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them side by side, hand in hand, heart to heart. Months had passed since Robert and I began our journey towards healing and redemption. Together, we had faced the darkest aspects of his past and emerged stronger than ever before. Our relationship was now built upon a foundation of trust, honesty, and open communication. As we continued to navigate the complexities of our lives, we decided it was time to expand our horizons beyond the pain that had once consumed us. Robert suggested that we start volunteering at local community centers, using our combined skills to help others who were struggling with their own personal demons. This idea reignited a spark within me, the desire to make a positive impact on those around us and to use our experiences for good. We began by organizing art workshops for underprivileged children and business seminars for aspiring entrepreneurs in the community. It was during these events that we first noticed the subtle shifts in people's perceptions of us. Our past mistakes were gradually being left behind as they witnessed our efforts to make a difference in others' lives. This newfound recognition brought us both a sense of pride, knowing that we were not only healing ourselves, but also serving as catalysts for change within our community. One day, while attending a charity gala hosted by one of the local organizations we supported, I found myself face to face with Mark, Robert's former business partner, and the mastermind behind his past transgressions. He looked older, worn down by the consequences of his actions, but still carried an air of arrogance that made my skin crawl. Robert noticed my tension from across the room and quickly intervened, ensuring that I remained safe while he dealt with Mark himself. Their conversation was brief, filled with tense exchanges and occasional glares in my direction. When they finally parted ways, Robert approached me with a sense of relief etched on his face. "Thank you for being strong," he whispered, taking my hand in his own as we made our way out of the event. Seeing him like that, it reminded me of how far we've come. I smiled at him, squeezing his hand gently. We've been through so much together, and I wouldn't have wanted to share this journey with anyone else. As we stepped into the bright light of dawn, something shifted within both of us, a renewed sense of hope and gratitude for the second chance that had been granted to us. Our story was not without its scars, but it was precisely those imperfections that now made our bond even stronger. Together, we faced whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that as long as we held onto each other, nothing could shatter the resilience of our love. And so, hand in hand, Robert and I walked towards the sunrise, into a world full of uncertainty, but also endless possibilities. Our future may have been clouded by doubt and fear once, but now it was illuminated with the vibrant colors of hope and redemption. In that moment, we knew there would always be remnants of what had been lost, like the smudge on my rearview mirror. But together, we had transformed those imperfections into symbols of our strength, testaments to the power of forgiveness, healing, and the unbreakable bond forged between two souls who dared to believe in a brighter dawn. And with each step forward, hand in hand and heart against heart, Robert and I walked towards eternity together, united and unshakably entwined.